Hey there, I'm taking my dog to the groomer. I just want to talk for a minute. I have not been on a couple days. I'll just tell you that literally every area of my life and business and everything, personal life, all just came under attack in very specific ways at once. My piano, the hammers have gone out of shape. I've got to get those replaced. It won't stay in tune. You know, that's a first world problem. Well, yeah, but that's something I have to deal with. That's my whole livelihood. Financially, that's not something I want to contemplate, but that's what's happening. Hammers on a grand piano is not. Anyway, there's my website turned out the data somehow got corrupted. So I can't process anything on the data itself until I clean it. And that's something I can fix. It's just has to be done. And then my other website for my wedding music business, this new Bing search thing is hallucinating information that's not there, including phone numbers and pricing. So if someone uses Bing's new ChatGPT search to find me, they're going to get bogus information until I structure my data in a way that it'll pass through cleanly. And that's, GPT should not be used as a search engine. It's not for factual information. It doesn't even know what it's saying. It's a brilliant tool, but it makes stuff up and doesn't know when it's doing it. Because like I said in some of these videos, all it's doing is it's mathing what you said and then returning things from its database that match the math of what you said, and it doesn't know if it's using the search engine it's plugged into, or its own memory, or its own ability to process language. It doesn't know the difference between a search query from your website and its own vocabulary database of words. And so it's known to do what's called hallucinating, and people have warned that this is not intended for factual, too much factual stuff that relies on, non-creative uses of language, like a search engine about your business. Anyway, there's that going on. And I have to move my website from my existing hosting provider to a new one, because mine said, if you want to get any more content, your stuff has grown so much, you're going to have to go to $100 a month more. I'm like, I can't do that. So I'm in the middle of all that. So anyway, very distracted on top of an ongoing saga that's been going on with my son, but through that I've been getting a lot closer to him, and he's just had a really rough year. Okay, so I say all that to say I've just not been on. I've been so distracted. I'm writing the 2 Mountains, 4 Views is almost done, and that's going to be really cool. It's a shorter book that just looks at Zion versus Sinai, the law versus grace, from Hebrews 12, which talks about, it presents a picture of the 2 mountains and contrasts them. One is characterized by gloom and terror and fear, and one is the city of the living God and the festal gathering. And then in Galatians 4, they are represented by 2 allegories, Hagar and Sarah, and the sons of the flesh, the children of bondage, versus the children of the free, the sons of the promise. And then in 2 Corinthians 3, it's the ministry of condemnation and death and the letter that kills, versus the New Testament ministry of the Spirit that gives life. And then Romans 7 and 8, which is the spirit of bondage and fear versus the spirit of sonship. And taken together, all the book summarizes each of these views, and put together, it's a complete picture of the difference between law and grace. From the objective external view, where you're looking at the mountains and just seeing the atmosphere that characterizes them, to the behaviors that associating with either mountain drives, like as in Galatians 4, those characters are acting out principles represented by those mountains. But then there's the inward sense that an individual has, whether he's in bondage at Sinai or in intimacy with the Father in Zion in Romans 7 and 8. And it really is about the inward feelings that you have that are generated by association with either the law or grace, Zion or Sinai, or Sinai or Zion. And then 2 Corinthians 3 is also focused on the inward man, the inner experience, but not from the perspective of the believer, but from the perspective of what God is working as He teaches us to transition from law to grace, what He accomplishes in us, which is a weight of glory, which is Christ wrought into us. And all together to speak to a full-orbed summary of why we cannot hover around the law and why we have to make a complete transition to grace and come to another mountain, because there is a complete change of atmosphere, not only in the tone of God's voice and the scenery about us, but the atmosphere in our heart and the feelings we have towards God and people, and what God is able to accomplish in us versus whether He's limited, because He's very limited at Sinai with what He could do to you other than just show you how sinful you are, and then the behaviors that it drives, what kind of person you become outwardly, in your interactions with other people, depending on whether you're at Sinai or Zion. So it sounds complex, but it's actually a pretty short book, and it's beautiful. I think it's going to be beautiful and really help some people get clear that you cannot mix law and grace. Okay, so I have been busy, but yeah, I've not been able to do videos, and I just wanted to say this weekend it all came to a head where it's like I've been trying to juggle this stuff and just manage it myself and take it one problem at a time, and getting increasingly frustrated and angrier and angrier at the unfairness of it all, and not relying on grace, but trying to do everything myself and make things happen and fix stuff. And I got to a point where I have a group of friends where I just told them, look, I'm totally in the flesh, and when I'm like this, I can't understand spiritual things. I know enough to know that none of my teachings will do me any good when I'm in this kind of mindset, because I can't even get my head around it. You know, what do you mean God's working something into me through this? Why don't you why don't you take that? That's kind of the attitude. And I know that I'm completely in the flesh at this point, and I'm not thinking about spiritual things. I'm not hardly even in it at all, you know. Well, I said at the end of the night last night, talking to people, I'm like, they're like, we're praying for you, and I appreciate that because I know it's true. And I said, look, I'm completely in the flesh. I apologize because I wasn't letting them encourage me. I was giving all the reasons why their encouragements were useless to me, and I don't need to hear it. But I finally said, look, I know I'm totally in the flesh, and all I can do is wait for my high priest. And they're praying for me, and one thing I know is that I have a high priest, which means I'll be back. I've learned, if there's one thing I've learned about the faithfulness of the Lord, especially after going through Hebrews, even as a person completely in the flesh who can't really understand spiritual things right now because my mind is otherwise occupied and my feelings are just full of, anger and, no, I had to do something. You can't tell me just rest. I gotta fix this. I know I have a high priest. I know I need to get back to him, and I know I can't. I can't control my heart. When I'm this spinning out of control, I cannot say, I need to be more spiritual. I need to have a better perspective. All that does is produce another demand and add one more page to my list of problems I've got to solve. Well, in addition to every area of your business is being attacked and your family is being attacked, you also need to have a good attitude, and you need to pray, and you need to get in the spirit. But all I can say is I have a high priest, and what that means is he ever lives to intercede for me, and he ministers himself to me, and he washes my feet. He says, in me you're clean, you just need your feet to be washed. You've gotten defiled by the world, and there's nothing you can do about defilement except come to me, and yet you won't come because of your condition. So what I'm going to do is I'll intercede, and I'll draw you in through my intercession and my shepherding. That's my job. And he's proven himself over and over to me, where I used to think I could run away from him, or I had run away from him, and he would give me the scripture where it says, look, even if I make my bed in hell, you are there. Even if I say darkness covers me, the darkness is light to you. You can't run from God, and he's not going to let you fall away from him. And most of the fear in the Christian life comes for many of us when we hit these places where our heart can't turn and we think, that's it for me. Well, I know that there's always another day coming, and night will pass, and that he's here upholding me, and he won't let me go far. And in fact, the more I know that, the less far I go when I hit these things. In the past, you might have started smoking pot or drinking or doing something to get your mind off, but now he doesn't let me go that far. He just lets me, he just starts drawing me back. Now, the other thing is, you really do need to have some friends that you can dump on, who won't judge you, that understand grace, and pray for you when this stuff happens. And I wish, people ask me all the time, I heard you guys have chats, and I'd love to come in, and it's like, I know, but we're at capacity. I've got one chat that's got like 30 people in it. And a lot of times I don't go in because I feel so guilty, because it's like the family reunion that you didn't show up to a number of times, and now all you got is apologies. I don't have time. And then I've got another chat that's smaller, which I do a little better with. And there I can dump problems, and we do dump our issues, and we just pray for each other, or at least we do the pray emoji. That seems to do something. At least we do the prayer emoji. But I don't have the ability to open it up anymore. We had too many people coming in with weird agendas when I had it open before. We had witches come in pretending to be believers, pretending to be new believers, who were actually 30, 40 years around theological things and knew all the different theologies in depth, it turned out. And they were trying to take people aside and do all kinds of stuff and destroy the ministry, destroy the fellowship. And there's too many people that have too many life issues to deal with that kind of drama all the time. So we just closed it and said, this is our fellowship, and I feel bad because I don't have the ability to moderate another fellowship or open it up. And I know a lot of people will have a Discord, and you can just go in there, and you know what? It's a free-for-all. People are beating the crap out of each other, and the only way to moderate it is to abuse everybody. I'm not doing that. No way. I don't want any part of those so-called fellowships, which are not fellowships, they're theological fight clubs. We barely talk about theology. We really are just caring for one another and building one another up in love. If we talk about theology, we're just talking about the Lord and his faithfulness, and the truth. But find some people. There's all kinds of people on my wall that are like-minded on the comments. Look around at all the people that are like-minded and understand grace. You can tell because of what's on their lips. And I would love to see some of you start a MeWe or a WhatsApp or something, a group of about 6 or 7 people that pray for ministries that you know are dispensing food, and pray for each other and get to know each other. There's no reason why you have to be directly associated with the only that chat group. If you are hungry and thirsty for fellowship, just reach out to people on the wall. Look for the nice people that don't look like they're going to bite your head off, and ask them, hey, if you, in fact, right now, if you're looking for fellowship, say it on my wall and start conversations with each other and figure out how to get in contact with each other, and do groups of about 6 to 8, maybe 10. And nobody needs to be in charge, and don't do it like a Bible study. Just do it like friends to get to know each other. There's plenty of Bible study, but typically that turns into, all kinds of stuff. Okay, well, I have to take my dog in, but I just wanted to say thank God for my high priest. And I want to remind you, you have a high priest, and you also need the fellowship. I'm sorry I can't provide it. I can't keep up, but that doesn't mean you need to not have fellowship with people who have this view, because there's lots of people who've been drinking from this ministry and Greg and others for years, who are constituted and have a solid base of grace, and now they need to get together with some people and share it. And guess what? Good works will come out of those fellowships. All right, take care.